And I would like to call to the table the speakers of the first session of the conference, which is myself in order of appearance, but also Professor Picaluga from the Scuola Superiore Sant'Anna of Pisa, president of NEDVAL, Professor Giorgio Sulligoi from the University of Trieste, Ms. Vanja Rangus, which will join us later on from Slovenia. Okay. Nicola Redi from Vertis SGR, and Mr. Ivan Kurzolo from the JTS, Joint Technical Secretariat of the Italy-Croatia program. Okay. I would like now to briefly introduce the program, the activities, the premises to the program, and the Pacinno project as well. And I would like also to launch some of the topics we would like that during this conference will be discussed and dealt with, because they have to do with the continuation, sustainability, or follow-ups to the project itself. Let me now just open the presentation I prepared. Okay. I titled this presentation a first appraisal of Pacinno because we have not yet completed the project. The project is about to finish at the end of November 2016. So we have still a couple of months that are meant mainly to disseminate the outcomes of the project. Some of the outcomes are already available. You could have found them at the entrance, at the registration desk. We have a book that has just been published. We have several research reports that are available also in digital format. But there is something more yet to come. So it is very important, and we are eager to be able to spread such outcomes, which in our view may represent a very good basis for the future projects and European programs to come targeting this area. The area is this one. It's the Adriatic Sea, and all around we have 8 countries. And as you see, the area is rather fragmented. There are many countries if we consider the size of this area. It may be surprising, for example, to notice that if we draw a circle with a radius of only 400 kilometers, we include basically all the Adriatic IPA region. So it's a rather narrow area, which is good and bad at the same time. It's bad because for us, we are economists, economies of scale do matter a lot. So size is important. And of course, in this case, size is not there. But at the same time, we also have to recall that proximity is key. I mean, knowledge is an asset that travels on the feet of the people. And the closer the people are, the better in this respect. And we also know that one of the backbones of our economies, in particular of Italy, the industrial clusters, are localized areas where proximity is one of the dominant and predominant and most important factors for the competitive advantage of companies. So proximity is one of the key levers we can action to build up something targeting the Adriatic region. But is this proximity true proximity? Are we so close to each other? Well, this is a rhetoric question because we made many jokes about how difficult it was for all of us when we met everywhere in the Adriatic region to get there. Wherever we met, like in Sarajevo, like in Trieste, like in Corfu, or in Podgorica, and so and so. But I wanted to show to the audience in a more effective way this problem by doing a sort of not an academic research, but very practical data collection from Google Maps. So I inserted the cities where we are located as project partners: Trieste, Aidovština, Rijeka, Podgorica, Sarajevo, Tirana, Corfu, and Belgrade. And I calculated, with the help of Google Maps, the distances, with the assumption that we are driving by car. Okay, I don't know how Google calculated this with reference to Corfu. I don't know whether you can be reached by car. Anyway, let's follow this joke. Well, the joke is basically not that, it's kind of a serious joke because, as you can see, the distances as measured in terms of hours of travel are impressively high, are very high. Let's focus on the city that is closer to the center of the Adriatic region, that is Sarajevo. Do this. Try to add up the number of hours needed to reach every single other destination. And you get to a number that is close to 50 hours. Again, we are in a region that is included in a circle of 400 kilometers of radius. But we are almost unreachable to the others. This is probably a very good indicator of the contradictions of the Adriatic region and, of course, also of the work yet to be made. But we have a very interesting past to start with. I mean, the Adriatic has been, many centuries ago, the cradle of globalization. Mostly with the help of Venice, but not only, also of the Turks and all the other cities that along the coasts of Adriatic thrived on exchanges. What has been left today of this very, prestigious heritage? Well, we decided to calculate out of the total foreign trade of the 8 countries we represent here, the percentage of exports and imports that are destined to other Adriatic countries. Okay, so let's make 100 the total of the trade of all of our countries. How much of this 100 is destined to the rest of the Adriatic region? And the numbers are quite impressive. Take the first column. Don't get lost with the numbers. So let's focus on the first column, exports. Albania, 67%, 2/3 of exports of Albania are destined to other Adriatic countries. 44% for Bosnia, 43% for Croatia, 15% for Greece, and 3% only for Italy, but Italy is a much bigger country than the other. 54 for Montenegro, 38 for Serbia, and 26 for Slovenia. So, still today, we have a lot of interchange. And we believe that this is a good premise to go further. Of course, there is not only interchange of goods. We hope that there could be interchange of ideas, knowledge, patents, and innovative concepts and products, and so and so. But we have also to be aware of the fact that the Adriatic region is also full of problems. We have something in common, that is the long list of problems we face every day, as institutions, as citizens, but also as governments. We have systemic problems to take care of, which we try to list here. The main problem, or actually the outcome of these problems, is the low competitiveness of the region. Competitiveness is about, how we compare with other parts of the world. And if you are competitive enough, you can get the customer. You can sell your products. You can grow economically. We do have a big problem of competitiveness that is reflected also in the low rates of economic growth. This competitiveness problem is based on a few weaknesses of the Adriatic region that we all have in common. I just read poor infrastructure. Think, for example, of the roads. Think, for example, of the distances we discussed just before. Weak research funding. We will get back to this soon, but definitely we have too little money destined to research. And the fact is that this is also multiplied in its effect by the fact that we are small economies. So, small amounts of resources invested by small economies. Then, weak innovation, of course, but also weak framework conditions for innovation. We made a research on this, on the framework conditions for innovation, and I invite the audience to take a look to the research reports. Scarce connections between academia and the industry and the business world in general, and this is what technology transfer is also about. Fragmentation, limited size of the domestic markets, and we know that the competitiveness of a region is also correlated, if not caused, by the size of the market. The bigger the market, the more competitive you are. Think, for example, of the US. And not homogeneous regulatory regimes. That means that we are 8 countries with 8 pools or sets of laws, legislations, regulations, very different sometimes, very difficult to align. Also because only 4 countries are member states of the European Union and the other 4 countries are not. And this is resulting in the other column that is basically generating this problem of competitiveness. But in our view, probably the worst of the problems is reflected in the numbers of this next slide. It's about youth unemployment in the region. We could not find data that were more recent in order to let it possible for us to compare. So, of course, there are more recent data, and these statistics are changing all the time, very rapidly, because people at this age, they enter and exit the active population very, very fast, very easily, depending also on the policies of the governments. The problem is, I'm not reading the numbers, you can read yourself. The problem is that this is causing another big problem that we are facing today all the time in our countries. That is the brain drain. The young generations, the young people, they are just leaving the Adriatic area. And this is not just perceivable, but it's measurable in terms of numbers of people that are leaving countries and the decrease in the overall population of the Adriatic area. Of course, this is causing long-term consequences to the competitiveness of the region itself. But if we want to make us even more harm, let's have a look to this. Sorry for I'm joking, but half joking. During these 3 years, we were very much concerned about, our 8 countries, and we kind of started thinking as a collective entity. Look at this map. This is the map for European based innovation. And it seems that there is another Adriatic Sea right in the middle of this southeastern part of Europe. This white or blank part is representing the 4 non-member states. That means that we do not have numbers, or we do not have yet trustable numbers on such countries, which is something we try to compensate for with specific analysis of innovation indicators targeting Bosnia and Herzegovina, Serbia, Montenegro, and Albania. But let's forget for a while the missing countries. Let's focus on the countries remaining, in the region, like Italy, Slovenia, Croatia, and Greece. There is a predominance of yellow color, and yellow means moderate innovators. I'm not getting into the technicalities of the indicators to define what an innovation leader, what a strong innovator or a moderate innovator is. But of course, it is definitely, meaning that we have a problem with innovation. And the problem of innovation is reflected in the numbers we collected regarding the R&D expenditures in the region. In the last column, you have the average of the European, the 28 countries of Europe, 28 still for a little bit, and the averages of expenditures in R&D for private investments, public investments, and as total investments. The total is the first row. 2% is the average in Europe, and the only country that is above this 2% of the Adriatic area is Slovenia. All the other countries are below. This is one proof we do have a problem with innovation. And why is R&D so important? This is a recent study carried out by Ambrosetti covering the period 2000-2013. Sorry, it's in Italian, just the names of the countries, but you can find Italy and Greece. And this is a sort of correlation between GDP growth rate and R&D expenditures as a percentage of GDP. It is evident for everybody, not only for us as academicians, that this correlation is positive. I don't know whether there is any causation effect here or what causes what, but definitely there is a correlation. And where we have less R&D, we have less economic development. But is this just about money spent? We don't think so. We think that R&D can also be based on human capital, people. And we can find smart people everywhere. But how many people can we find? So according to the statistics available, the R&D personnel as a percentage of the active population in the region is consistently below the EU averages, unfortunately. This is what you can find in the first row. But the second row is more positive if we see it in perspective, because if we focus on the PhD graduates that are hopefully the next R&D personnel, or in any case, people that are smart enough to make a difference, then we see that the numbers are not that different than the European average. So we can leverage on this, unless these people are about to leave our countries. Again, we have to face the challenge of the brain drain. Are we doing enough to avoid these people to leave our countries? Of course, one of the purposes of many European programs and of the missions of Pacinno itself has been that of helping the development of a Adriatic innovation system at the macro-regional level. Is there anything we can base our efforts on? I mean, what are the statistics telling us about the level of interchange of innovative activities between the Adriatic countries? For example, co-patenting can be considered a proxy of the richness of interactions between countries with reference to innovation. You know that you co-patent when you develop something new, and then of course you get a patent, together with another company, another institution, another innovation agent. The first column is measuring the proportion, the percentage of patents of a country over the period of 2010-2014 that have been developed with international partners. And we see there is a good enough propensity for international co-patenting in the Adriatic region. The fact is that the second column, is, with the exception of Albania, is telling us that very little part of this co-patented activity is involving Adriatic countries, other Adriatic countries. So the Adriatic region is not yet, in this respect, in terms of co-patenting, in terms of developing together new products, new services, something that is subject to intellectual protection, is not developing together such important prerequisites for competitiveness. But the situation is different, is more positive if we look at the co-publishing. What is co-publishing? It's where we are mostly academicians, and of course, we are quite accustomed to publish articles, papers, with many authors. And an international co-publication is where we have, in the list of the authors, people of different countries. So what we notice, and have a look to the second column, that out of, let's say, 100 co-publications, 23 of them in Albania, they are made with co-authors of the Adriatic region, 41% for Bosnia, 14% for Croatia, and so and so. So in our view, this is signaling an opportunity that is to collaborate together in terms of academic productivity, which is something that already the statistics are showing. So these are the premises of our project. We started from here a couple of years ago, almost 3 years ago. And we established a set of actions targeted at improving, in general, the competitiveness of the region, but in particular, the innovation systems. As previously was emphasized, Pacinno is an acronym that is pointing out the following, that we want to create a platform of cooperation involving universities and research centers. So this is a trans-academic platform for cooperation with specific reference to innovation. Okay, so Pacinno means platform for academic cooperation in innovation. So it's a very easy acronym. We discovered that it's easy to pronounce in all of our languages. Okay, so it was also a good brand name for our project. We also use this payoff where knowledge becomes innovation, because we, academic, research-based institutions, we produce knowledge. But knowledge has a long road to become innovation. And so we are focusing on making this transformation possible, from knowledge to innovation. We will be discussing this afternoon about this. Let me recall all of you who the partners of this initiative were. Well, just because we are the lead partners, we put ourselves on top of the list, the University of Trieste. Then we followed also this order, I think also for administrative purposes, so there is no ranking in this list, of course. We have in Slovenia the Center of Excellence for Biosensors, Instrumentation, and Process Control, COBIC, we call more easily this institution. Then the Faculty of Medicine of the University of Rijeka in Croatia, the School of Economics and Business of the University of Sarajevo, we call it SEBS, Bosnia and Herzegovina, the Institute Mihailo Pupin of Belgrade for Serbia, the Faculty of Economics of the University of Podgorica in Montenegro, the University of Tirana, Albania, and the Ionian University of Corfu in Greece. So as you see, research-oriented and academic institutions. The main goal has been that of, let's say, closing the innovation gap in the region. By doing what? Establishing a cooperation platform, as I was mentioning before, and in general, opening bridges with the word of innovation. And the word of innovation is mainly represented by technology transfer intermediaries, incubators, science parks, but also corporations, companies, firms, and investors. Very briefly, let me now focus on what we did. A few numbers and a few activities. First of all, technology transfer. It is to be remembered that we did establish 8 technology transfer offices that in the case of this university, for example, is complementing the existing industrial liaison office. In other cases, these offices were established for the first time in history of such institutions, so they were new initiatives, brand new initiatives, which are expected to set the direction of the future actions yet to come. So 8 technology transfer offices that were active over these last 3 years. We organized events, we organized seminars, workshops, training initiatives, but in general, we tried to get closer and closer to the business system. And also, we tried also to promote entrepreneurship from the bottom, that is, from the individuals that are carrying ideas, business ideas. They could be even our students or our colleagues in our departments or in other units of our research institutions. For policymakers, we have been doing quite a lot, we think. We have been doing a lot of research, and you can find the findings of such research available in your pen drives or in your bags. You can find books regarding part of the research we did. We had a goal that was to map innovation and how innovation is taking place all around the Adriatic region. Of course, innovation is also involving companies, and so we did a lot of surveys on companies. And we analyzed innovation taking place at the institutional level, but also at the team level and at the individual level, developing and applying very new methodologies, also from a scientific standpoint. Also, we developed a tool for mapping innovation across the 8 countries, and we developed this website, www.adriaticinnovationmaps.eu. You can navigate it if you want, but probably tomorrow my colleague Claudio Cozza will tell us something more about this tool that is meant to fill the gap of knowledge we have over innovation indicators with reference to the non-EU member states. Do you remember this blank part of the European innovation map? Pacinno for researchers, what we did was basically to convey the idea to people involved in carrying out research projects that, you know, a research project is not just about applying a scientific methodology, but it's also about managing projects. It's also about budgeting, planning, and you know, making and calculating indicators. So we set up a training program meant for research officers, or managers of R&D departments in both public and private institutions. It worked, and we trained many dozens of researchers all around the Adriatic region. For startups, we did too, quite a lot. We ran several acceleration programs. What is an acceleration program? It's a program meant to, with the provision of services and also training, to help a business entity to grow at a higher stage. It could be an idea that is helped to grow at the, let's say, established firm level, or an established firm that is just helped to grow at a higher level, like, for example, the level of a mid-sized, medium-sized company. Of course, this is also involving the presence of investors, and we did this with the help of financial investors. Pacinno for SMEs, I already recall that we involved more than 1,000 SMEs with our surveys, but not only, we also involved them in pilot projects meant to apply our research to their problems. But we are very proud of the outcomes we got from this research, and I strongly invite you to have a look take a look to our reports. What next? We are about to finish this project. Of course, every good thing is destined to finish. And the key issue, the key challenge for us now is to provide sustainability. And sustainability should not be only based on the availability of European Union funds, also because they are very competitive and sometimes the time is not the right one. For example, at the moment, there are many programs, as one of the speakers will remind us, about to be launched, but unfortunately, they are coming too late to give a strict continuity to Pacinno. So, what can we do? And we decided that the first thing we can do is to help the technology transfer offices to do their activities in the right way by benchmarking with the best practices all around Europe. And we will start doing this by calling for and asking for the help of the Italian Association for the Valorization of Research, that is a network of technology transfer offices of our universities, whose name is NetVal, that is here represented by the next speaker, Professor Andrea Tracogna. And I'm about to finish, and let me now introduce the next speakers. The first one, Andrea Tracogna, will tell us something about NetVal and about the challenges they faced over the last 15 or something years to promote technology transfer, but also more than this, I mean the third mission of our universities in Italy. But probably, considering his expertise, he will also share with us some of his views about best practices of technology transfer in Europe and in the world. Then Giorgio Suligoi from this university, he is the person in charge of technology transfer and industry-academia connections. He will tell us something about what this university is doing beyond, well beyond Pacinno, and has been doing over the last years. Then Vanja Rangus from Slovenia, but also with a very broad international experience, will tell us his views about technology transfer and, in general, the possible connection between knowledge and innovation. Nicola Redi is here representing the community of investors in innovation. He's working currently for a venture capital fund, so he has a lot to share with us, in particular with reference to his experience in dealing with universities, but not only this. And last but not least, Mr. Kurzolo is here representing the new program 2014-2020 of the European Union, Interreg Italy-Croatia. Is only covering part of the Adriatic region, but his expertise is much broader. So he's here to share with us what the vision and the actions of the European Union targeting the Adriatic region will be in the near future or in the present. So thank you for your attention, and I will invite you also to have a look to the rest of the program that is very rich, but I do not want to overwhelm you with too much detail. So you will find in the program that has been given to you also the contents of the next sessions. Tomorrow we'll have a session dedicated to policy makers, but in particular innovation policies. What can we do to make things happen? And another session dedicated to academic entrepreneurship and, in general, startups in the Adriatic region. Is it possible? This is the question we are asking ourselves. But let me now give the floor to the first speaker, that is Professor Andrea Tracogna. You can decide whether to speak from here or just to stand there. Probably it's better here. Thank you very much.